Hello, hello, everybody, and welcome to Romancing the Stones Fall Semester Middle School League Week 4. Actually. My name is Robert, and I'm joined here by Ty. How you doing, Ty?
I'm doing great. I'm excited for some middle school magic. We got two great matches tonight, and this first one looks like they're ready to start.
I am excited. I think our players have had a few mulligans between the two, but the matchup is going to be really fun, I think. I'm excited.
Yeah, we'll see how fun it is. It's two different decks that you don't see all the time. Herb on the right, he's gonna be playing goblins, but it's a significant black splash. He's got Living Death in the main deck, and not just like a Burning Wish package.
Sure.
And on the left, David's playing Merfolk with StifleNaught package. So the will it StifleNaught? Can it StifleNaught? Keeps adding new things here. We've got turn one Tidal Warrior.
Tidal Warrior. Now that is a card from Stronghold, I believe, but I don't remember the text of Tidal Warrior.
It's tap to turn any land into an island until end of turn.
All right, so for our classic Merfolk Island walk, build in the unblockability. Sweet.
Yeah. And because it overwrites types, you can kind of use it as like a kind of like a Richard import. Sometimes it turns off Mistress Factories. It's a pretty good one drop for Merfolk. There's not really a lot of good Merfolk in middle school or pre-modern. I've played a lot of Merfolk in my time. I've played Legacy Merfolk. I've played Modern Merfolk. I've played Standard Merfolk. I've won PTQs with Modern and Standard Merfolk.
Sure.
I have yet to get to the point where I want to play middle school Merfolk. But with the StifleNaught package, it is more interesting to me now. You get to play stuff like Daze, and he's got Gush in the deck, and that's one of the things that Mono Blue can really take advantage of is those alternate cast spells.
Yep.
As we see the Daze on the turn one Mog Fanatic.
Well, and I think in this format too, the camouflage you might get from playing these sort of blue dorks, right? When you just suddenly the game goes long and then you just suddenly make a 12/12.
Yeah.
I think that's really powerful and gives you an alternate game plan. So
Yeah,
there,
I think the big issue is like, yeah, there's I just don't think the main Merfolk plan is good enough. You only have 4 lords, and most of the Merfolk, besides like Waterfront Bouncer,
sure,
are just not very good in general. Waterfront Bouncer I think is very good, but the other ones you can play like different looting Merfolks. You play Merfolk Looter, Battalion Merchant, Merfolk Traders, Rootwater Thief. Like none of these cards, they all have their uses that just not seem that useful in this format. But
sure.
as a part of a supplemental package where you're forcing the removal and then you're setting up the dreadnought later, maybe that's the plan.
So we saw her fire off a Cabal therapy. Seeing a Merfolk that you don't see often, I'm not sure what he named. Maybe if he's just thinking about it, he'll name a Lord, which he missed on if that was the name, which then David promptly drew.
Yeah,
Um,
I wonder what he named because I think you could name Force of Will, which the blue deck probably has, or
sure.
Gush. You think one of those two after you've seen Days, but um, here Dave's got the beats going, but one card that I think is going to be key in this matchup is Goblin Pile Driver.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because if as long as Herb doesn't get his lands turned into islands, he's gonna be able to block, and Goblin Pile Driver has protection from blue, and then
Yep.
he can block all day, and then eventually he can be a lethal threat that David cannot block except with a Dreadnought. And generally, if you have the Dreadnought in play, you're probably winning that game anyway. So Pile Driver, I think, is going to be key, especially in the pre-board games. But it looks like the start so far has been very good for Dave. He's got Herb down to 14 already, and all Herb's doing is porting, which isn't that effective against this deck.
uh,
That's
for the
all one and
Goblin
two
deck,
mana
that's
spells.
kind of a miss, I would
Yeah,
say.
yeah. I
Um,
don't know if it's we only have the one red source because we had to fetch the swamp, and so we can't play our double red spells. But we did find another Bloodstained Mire here, so maybe we'll see a ringleader
well, there we
or
go. Now we've got at least two red sources.
war chief.
Um,
Interesting that Goblin Sharpshooter can be very good before the Lord comes down against
right.
a
I
lot of
was
these
just
X
thinking that.
ones. Otherwise, he's gonna have to find a way to kill the Lord. One card I like a lot in Goblins in these formats that is like a one or two of that I don't see a lot of people playing is Sparksmith, because I think
Sure.
in these types of matchups it could just win the game by itself. You don't have to do any setup. You don't have to do. Ooh, but there's a ringleader that draws 3 cards, including a
And
siege gang, a prospector, and a lackey. So
those are all good cards. That mountain's gonna go away. We're gonna put those three cards in hand, and now we've got a blocker.
yeah, I
David
like the
is,
decision to not attack. Ringleader does have haste, but you're not really trying to make the race here. You have all these extra cards. You have the therapies going
yeah.
for once you start casting spells.
Well, and
Just
David
block.
showed he didn't have a blue card, or he would have just forced a willed
Yeah,
this ringleader. So you got,
and you're in a situation here where the title warrior, you can make an island, but Lord of Atlantis itself does not have island walk, so you can't really attack with either one.
right.
He needs one more Merfolk to really go. Looks like he's gonna attack with the title warrior. I expect him to block
Yeah,
because
I would
yeah,
snap the block
that's
off at 13 life, absolutely.
mhm,
Well, I can see why you haven't had, the inkling to play Merfolk yet, because as you mentioned, like we have only the four lords, and we couldn't even attack, even with the
mhm.
ability to give something island walk, or make an island. We still doesn't give us any good attacks, which is not what you want out of a deck that wants to play creatures to the board. So, but Herb's not playing much to the board yet. We know he's got a number of goblins. We're gonna start with the lackey. I wonder what we'll see as a follow up. If we're going to see David's going to
Looks like
respond.
Dave's he's gonna float 2 mana for a gush. So if he
Okay,
draws a counter
so
spell here, we can counter it.
or any blue card. So we're taking a chance here.
Well, the lackey's not too threatening because we can block it.
Sure.
And
We don't have
maybe
enough
you let it
goblins for Gem
resolve
Palm
if
yet.
you're. Yeah, but he did find counterspell, which I think
That's a beating.
it's fine. Yeah, because he wasn't threatening to cast Sieging this turn either. That's the card that'll really, once Sieging hits the board, it's going to be game over for David unless he has the Dreadnought going. So Um, I like the idea of the Dreadnought in this Merfolk thing, but it's not as consistent. He's only playing 3 Stifles and 1 Vision Charm and a Cunning Wish to go get the 4th Stifle. But he doesn't
Oh,
have any
okay.
impulses. He doesn't have any sleight of hands. He has no real way to like find the combo other than he's got like a Merfolk Looter and some of these Merfolk traders. But one card that I think is really cool with the Dreadnought combo is Rootwater Diver. He's playing 2 of this Merfolk, which it's just a 1 mana 1/1, but you can sack it to bring back an artifact from your graveyard to your hand. So
Ah, sure.
if they deal with the Dreadnought, you can just bring it back and do it again if you have another Stifle or whatever. Um, so Rootwater Diver, a little bit of some extra value. Oh, but here's the pile driver that he's searching up with the matron. Clearly, he
I mean, yeah,
knows
you
that it's
kind of
the
have
most
to,
important
right?
card. It might not be the most important card, but it's the card that's going to be key most of the time.
Yeah, I think, with what David has presented so far, he's light on land. He might have another blue card in hand for whatever the
Yeah,
matron grabs, but we drew blue card off of, we drew the counter spell, we cast it. So I don't
the
know if
other
we
thing
have
to
another
remember is
one.
that there's 2 Cabal Therapies in the graveyard here. So
Yeah,
whenever Herb's ready
sure.
to play this pile driver, he's going to clear the way to make sure that resolves. And
Yeah,
then,
and this matron is
maybe he
easy fodder.
sees, ooh, but Winter Orb, that's going to be a card that's actually surprisingly good against goblins.
Yep.
Especially if you can handle the lackey. Yeah, Herb's got 4 land in play.
Yeah, it makes
Um,
port real bad.
but he should try to untap all of them right away. But no, that's not.
No, I can't do that.
Your
Oh,
opponent
shucks.
did something, yeah. So I can see Dave might find a way to sneak out a win here if. Ooh,
Well, I mean, all
would have
we have to
attacked
do,
first
right?
before the therapy, but um,
Okay. I mean, we named
I'm
Force the
assuming it's
Will
gonna be Force
here.
of Will, and then we have the land then for. Ooh, there's the Dreadnought.
Ooh, we reveal Dreadnought and Island. So now
Okay,
Herb says, "Oh, there's this other plan."
yeah.
Um,
So now he's thinking, he can
awkward.
play the pile driver, but is that going to be enough? You know,
Well, we're still a turn away, and at least
but he has
we
to
have two
debate
draw
here
steps before
using the other
David can.
therapy because you
Well, no,
could
we
use
still
the
have the
therapy
Island in
here
hand.
for the
So
Dreadnought. Yeah. So let's
do we
see
have it?
if Dave's got it because that would definitely be the way to win this game.
Yes. No. Pro Blue does not protect you from a 12/12 artifact trampler. But as we noted, Dave, is not primarily a Dreadnought deck, so we'll
Right.
see here if Herb can punish David. I mean, all we need is another. There we go. There's a lackey that we can sacrifice and get rid
That's a
of the
prospector.
12/12.
So yeah, the prospector could get flashback. It could flashback the therapy. I think though you might just wait a turn because if you, oh no, he's going to do it. He thinks he's got the inevitability, so he's just going to take his time, make sure we don't lose to the Dreadnought.
Yeah, I think
Um,
we get rid of the Dreadnought. We revealed nothing in hand. Then we can untap. We don't have to attack. We have a blocker. And we'll just untap our land eventually, play another Goblin, and then kind of go to town.
he might even just take 5 turns and play the siege gang because that's almost a lethal clock siege gang plus pile driver
Sure.
by itself. So
Well, yeah, if you can untap and kill the Lord, then you just have a free reign to really attack in.
well he can't block with the lord anyway, so because it's protection from blue.
Sure.
And then you can attack, get this triggers on the pile driver, and then before blocks, you can even sack a goblin to the siege gang to kill the lord. So I
So,
imagine, ooh, we're gonna have a lackey first though, so maybe. Oh, but we have counter. But there's counter spells. So
nope. So if I told you that we were going to have a Goblin deck versus a Merfolk deck primarily, and in 7 turns there would still only be one creature on each side of the battlefield, I mean, we would have questioned whether these were truly aggro,
mhm.
creature decks. But here we are. Oh look, we could give Island Walk. Unfortunately, we're still in the same predicament.
There is one other card in David's deck that can help him here, which is Wonder. He has 1 copy of Wonder, and then he's got, like I said, the Merfolk Looter and the Merfolk Traders that he can use to discard it, and that can be good. It also can be very good with your Dreadnoughts if they ever
Sure.
have enough toughness to block. So, and he also has Waterfront Balancers to let him discard Wonder. So it's actually a pretty good inclusion, just as like a one of that you're gonna probably find a way to discard it or you could just cast it. Ooh, a Dust Bowl is interesting because David can operate on very low mana. Maybe he just kind of uses it here to keep Herb off of. Well, no, I guess the Winter Orb's doing enough.
Yeah, I mean, I think the investment of tapping 4 land to, I mean, what can we even really destroy that's really helpful, right?
Oh, okay. So now he's gonna start turning the mountains into islands during Herb's upkeep with
Sure.
the
I
Tidal
think that's
Warrior.
great. You know, reduce the red sources,
Yeah. Um,
especially if they're the ones that are untapped. We've got 2 untapped red sources, and we've got the Prospector.
yeah. If he wanted to, he could sack everything for Siege Gang, but I don't think he's ready to sacrifice
No.
the Pile Driver.
Yeah,
Here's a War
especially if we have the War
Chief.
Chief.
Yeah. I don't know. I still think maybe it's better to just kind of wait and play the Siege Gang without, because you know when you play the War Chief, it is good, but it's not really. It's taking away 3 turns from your Siege
Well, if
Gang.
let's say Herb has another land in hand, then we
Hmm.
can untap a mountain. It turns into an island. We play another land from hand, and then we sacrifice the Prospector. It's not quite enough. That's
Yeah,
3.
it's just
Yeah.
it might be neutral on the turns, but it also could be
I might have attacked with the
behind.
War Chief, actually.
That's a good point.
Against this Lord, I would have attacked.
I think, yeah. I imagine David would probably block that with the Tidal Warrior, but
Oh, Tidal Warrior was tapped. It had given a.
oh yeah,
It
true.
had made a mountain an island, so he only had the Lord to block. I would have taken that 2 points of damage.
You could
I,
even attack with the Pile Driver there. That's 5, and um,
yeah,
yeah,
I'm
but
not
you
sure
you're
I'm
just
willing to
taking 4 on the
trade
back. Yeah.
the War Chief on a block. Maybe I am, but yeah, we could have just attacked for 5. Well, see, I think the only way we attack with Pile Driver is if we're actually attacking with other goblins. So I think I would have just
Uh-huh.
attacked with the War Chief there. I think that's pretty free. Um,
Yeah. And also if you ever draw another Pile Driver, you really want it to cost 1.
right,
Um,
especially against this.
Interesting that he's untapping the swamp. I
Okay.
guess he's got another Cabal Therapy.
All right,
Okay.
what do we name against 4 blank cards? 3 blank
Here I
cards.
think you have to name one half of the combo, so either Dreadnought or Stifle, but because I don't think any of the other cards are going to matter. So he
Sure.
reveals 2 islands and a Dreadnought, so I don't know what he named, but it looks like we're going to flash back for the Dreadnought. Still, this Winter Orb is doing a lot of work. It's one of the stronger cards in these low to the ground decks. Um,
Yep. And
I'm playing
notably,
a deck this league with Winter Orb in the sideboard, and it's been it's I've had matchups where it would be great. I've yet to draw it though, so I've been losing my matches. But
well,
if I'd
we've
ever
drawn
drawn it, it
another
would be.
Merfolk and we've played it. So,
So this is the Root Water Diver, I believe, yes, and so that can get back the Dreadnought if we ever draw the Stifle to go with it. So even
uh,
therapy is not going to get him out of this. Um, he may have to he may have to find a way to kill it if he has a chance.
ooh,
Oh, but there's
there's
another
the
Pile
second pile
Driver.
driver. Okay, we may almost have the ability to race here.
So you can attack with just the 2 Pile Drivers for 6, or you can attack with the team for 12. That you'll lose your War Chief, but then you'll have 6 the next turn. Guess he's just
I
blocking.
think blocking with the War Chief, if possible, is fine because if these guys get to keep attacking for 6 unblock, like that's 4 turns. Now it would have
Okay,
been
so
3 if we'd
the
gotten
extra
those 2 points
Merfolk
of damage
does
in.
let Dave start attacking with the Tidal Warrior plus Island Walks shenanigans.
Yes.
Um, and does he have another Merfolk here? He
Okay.
does, another
So
Rootwater Diver.
Herb really needs to put on the you
Yeah, it's
know
a 2-turn clock here from here because he's at 8. There's 4 power a turn coming, um, and really the Winter Orb is going to make it so unless you find a third Pile Driver here. Uh,
I'm actually thinking that 2 points of damage that Herb missed on might actually matter here.
yeah, I think 2 or it could have been 5. Well, the 5 probably would have got cracked back for 4. So
Right. I don't
the
think it
5
could.
was it,
I
but
think he could have attacked for the 2.
I definitely think last turn we probably should have attacked with at least both Pile Drivers.
I agree because
Yeah,
I think
that
trading a war chief is pretty free. if they're even going to try that. All right, let's see what
Yeah,
Herb is casting here.
he needs to find a gym palm or some way to deal with the Lord of Atlantis if he can. But the Winter Orb's really kind of shutting him down, and now it's almost like it's too late to attack because you really need them to block. You know,
Well, we're never blocking anymore. I think we're just attacking with
well,
everything.
you might just be dead on board now
Uh,
because there's now
well,
8
two,
on
four, six.
board.
Yeah, no, we are dead and bored.
So you take 12 here. David can take 12 and then just attack back for the win. And I think
Yeah,
that's what he's gonna do.
yeah, we couldn't have attacked all out. Yeah, so I think, um, that's hard.
So I think if he had attacked last turn, it would be different because Dave would be kind of forced to block this turn if he didn't block last turn.
Yeah,
And
so if we get in those 2 points of damage, he's at 18, and then if we attack the next turn for 6, he goes down to 12, and then this becomes a lethal blocker. And we're casting this?
how is that getting cast? Is there
Um,
a lackey that we don't see? I'm confused.
um,
What's going on here?
Chat, what did we miss? Did we miss something? These hacks? Did we really have 3 land?
And also, why did David only take 10 and not 12? Maybe
Um,
he was untapping these lands and
maybe. I'm gonna trust the players, like, know what they're doing, but at the same time, like, chat, what did we miss? What's happening?
yeah, I don't know what's going on
It's
there.
possible David did successfully change his life total. He may actually have taken the 12.
But I just don't know how the ringleader came into play. Like, it almost seemed like there was a lackey. And I just don't.
Maybe there is. Let's see. Nope, no lackey hidden.
Uh, yeah.
No lackey behind the curtain. He's mana off
Um.
screen. So chat's convinced he's got mana off screen. I'm willing to believe that.
So he's been playing lands off screen that we haven't seen. I can see that, and he's kept these tapped that we see on screen.
Yeah, multiple ports over there. Okay.
But
All right. I'll
yeah,
believe it.
that's
I'll allow it.
may need to tell them to be a little clearer there for the next game. But that looks like that could be enough to swing the race. Yeah, like this, whatever the stack at the bottom is. So I think he was
Yeah, I
playing
have a
things
feeling
untapped.
that I reduced his play area to the size of his play mat, but he is clearly utilizing more than just that small mat covers. So we'll
So,
chalk one up to production there.
so I still don't know why David only took 10. Um,
My best guess is that his life total just isn't actually accurate.
okay.
Um,
Well, looks like David's conceding, didn't find what he needed there, and couldn't deal with the pile drivers the next turn that are at least going to be 10 power.
sure, yeah,
Um,
with a blocker, we can't crack back with
mhm,
the last bit of damage.
yeah.
Because we can only swing for 4,
hmm
which is not enough. Since we can't swing all out. So, looks like Herb's gonna squeeze that one out.
Yeah, it was close. I think it was a lot closer than we thought. It looked like he was just not casting spells at all because of the Winter
Right.
Orb. But if he was still playing lands from his hand, then
Then that makes a difference. Absolutely.
yeah, yeah. All right, so in
Um,
the sideboards, we've got several cards that might be key here. First for David, he's got 2 chills and a Hydroblast that I don't know if he's going to bring in the Hydroblast with his Cunning Wish package, but I imagine he probably would rather have that in his opening hand than to try to wish for it. So I imagine he brings those
yeah.
in.
I think having more answers to turn 1 Lackey is key.
hmm
And wishing for Hydroblast is not an answer to turn 1 Lackey, but drawing
Yeah,
Hydroblast is. I'm all on board for that one.
I'm trying to figure out. Do you know what this card is on his list that's under the chill? Is it Grip of
Under the
Amnesia?
Chill.
Is that a
Oh
card?
yeah. Oh my
I
gosh.
don't know that card. Um,
I just got to remember. Hold on.
let me look it
Grip
up
of
real quick.
Amnesia. That's what it is.
Yeah,
Okay. All right. Getting
Grip
the Oracle
of
text for
Amnesia.
Grip
Counter
of
target
Amnesia.
spell. So it's 2 mana to counter a spell unless its controller exiles all cards from their graveyard. Okay, and then you can draw a card. So
So it's a
basically,
cantrip. It does
it
counter target
it exiles
spell.
their graveyard.
Yeah.
It exiles their graveyard and you draw a card. It never counters a spell unless they really want to keep their graveyard around. Um,
I think this is kind of a cool card, right, for blue, because blue doesn't have a lot of good ways to interact with someone's graveyard.
True. And
Um,
it is something you can wish for, which I think is why he's playing it. It's for
yep,
his wish packet. So I don't imagine him to bring that in. But on the other side, Herb has he's got 2 Pyroblasts in his sideboard, which imagine those are going to be brought in. He's got an extra sharpshooter that's probably pretty good. A Chainer's Edict that
sure,
he might play, and he's got 2 Pyrokinesis. That's going to be very good. So I imagine he's going to try and use Pyrokinesis to kill the Merfolk, and then use something like Chainer's Edict, hopefully to get the Dreadnought if that's an issue.
sure,
There's also 2 Engineered Plagues, which Plague naming Merfolk. If you get that down early,
yeah,
um, it might be enough. So it is interesting that some of these cards like Lord of Atlantis and Voldalian Merchant and Merfolk Traders have 2 toughness, but they would have you know 0 power or 1 power. So I think Engineered Plague will be in as well.
I'm looking at that. I'm thinking the plagues are helpful because they make pyrokinesis better, even with there's a
Hmm.
lord in play.
Hmm.
Like it helps kind of counteract that. Um, But then the Chainer's Edict, I think, is reserved solely for these dreadnoughts that we saw, because it's the only way to kill one of those, short of pyroblasting the blue spell that accompanies it. So I think we're kind of
He
priced
does have
in.
a Goblin Tinkerer in the main deck, so um, that's something he can tutor up. And I don't know if he has enough time to get that. You have to be like really kind of thinking ahead to see that. But Goblin Tinkerer, it does just kill a dreadnought and it lives.
Sure, it lives.
Usually Tinkerer doesn't kill something and survive. Um,
That is important. I agree. Um, I
oh, there is
think
two
there's
Shattering
time for it.
Pulse. He does have
I,
two Shattering Pulse. I don't know if that's he does kill
uh,
Winter Orb too, and Winter Orb was kind of an issue. So maybe Shattering Pulse is something he wants to play.
so maybe
He's got a.
we have too many cards now. I don't think we can bring in all these cards.
I don't think I don't think he wants to bring all of them in. But there is stuff like Goblin King isn't probably necessary. Um, maybe you don't need the prospectors. Maybe you don't need. Well, that's probably about
Yeah,
it.
if
Like
you
I still
think
think you
that,
want therapy. Uh, maybe you don't want Living Death. Yeah, Living Death seems good still.
Living Death is
Liv-
another way to answer a dreadnought.
yeah.
If you, I mean, and we've shown that David's list is a slow dreadnought list, so like Living Death may be fast enough. If we're not under Winter Orb, I think these Goblin Kings probably aren't long for this world. I think they come out.
Hmm.
Um,
And
I
I'm actually
think
not sure that you want to even bring in the sharpshooter. Like,
no, I
it
don't think
seems like
so.
you might even cut your own sharpshooter because the 1 toughness guys, if they're just 1 toughness, you don't care about them, and
No,
it's only when
I
they're 2
think
toughness with the Lord, and it doesn't kill Lord. So maybe I guess you can find a way to trigger it to kill Lord. So you probably still want one.
mm, I feel like if we think we're going to be able to kill something with 1 point of damage, I think these plagues are probably going to do the same
Mhm.
thing.
And we also have 4 Mog Fanatic. That
Right.
I don't think you're ever going to cut that.
Yeah. I mean, I think the
It's a
path
one
to
drop.
victory here is, these Pyroblasts are just good because they answer all angles of the deck. Pyrokinesis are just ways to interact with these cheaper creatures. Um, and Plagues are just solid. So I think those are definitely the easy 6 cards to bring in, or give or take. Edict seems fine. Maybe a Pulse. I could see if we have another card that just doesn't do much,
Mhm.
I could see taking out a Pulse. But maybe the Siege Gang, like Siege Gang, is great if we can get it in play, but otherwise it
Mhm.
doesn't do anything.
It's true, but
I'm
it is kind of like the way to. But yeah, it's either Siege Gang, but that plays into the Winter Orb plan.
right.
I'm curious to see if David's going to leave in the Winter Orbs. I think he should, because the Goblin deck is so mana intensive.
It really is.
Um, to be honest, he doesn't have a lot of cards to bring in. He's got the 2 Chill and the Hydroblast. So I can imagine something going out for those maybe.
Sure.
Maybe.
I think the combination of Winter Orb and Chill is
Hmm.
absolutely where we want to be. So if we're
Especially
gonna
with
bring in these
days.
chills, I think keeping the Winter Orbs makes a lot of sense. We'll find out though. I'm really curious to see. This is like you said before. These are not decks we see too often in these configurations for sure. I mean, definitely David's deck. Dreadnought decks don't usually go the route of Merfolk. They're usually kind of dedicated all in on control and make this 12-12. And this Goblin deck is not quite the standard Goblin deck we see. A lot of the same guys are here, but um, it'll be kind of interesting to see how they match up. I think David surprisingly had a very effective Winter Orb that Herb I don't think was quite expecting, and just couldn't really follow up with too much
Yeah,
in time.
Dave just really drew too many lands that game. I think there was a lot of ways that he could have won that game. You
Yep.
know, if he had drawn that Merfolk that lets him attack a little bit earlier, he could have been winning that race. So, really he had I think 8 or 9 islands at the end of that game, and he's only got I think 20 land in the deck. And he'd gushed I think at least once. So, um, he doesn't have a lot of ways to mitigate flood besides the gushes. So, really kind of hoping to draw that stuff, but
Well, David's going to open up on a waterfront bouncer. You mentioned the best Merfolk we could be playing other than the Lord.
yeah, this is it's a card that like doesn't look great when you read it. Just a 2 mana 1/1 that has unsummon on a stick where you have to discard cards, but a lot of time that discard is actually a plus in the format. You could be discarding something like Wonder or Basking Root Wall or Arrogant Worm,
Mm-hmm.
Circular Logic. Here, there's really not a lot he's wants to discard besides the Wonder, but um, we saw him with Gush and Daze. He's going to have a lot of lands in his hand late game, and just turning those into unsummons is fine.
Sure.
And it's good against Oath of Druid decks and Reanimator decks that people like to play.
Yep.
So it does a
Um,
lot of work for just a 2 mana 1/1.
I think it pairs well with the Winter Orb plan too, because if your opponent is spending 2 mana to cast a spell and you spend 1 mana to cast your spell and unsummon it, you're ahead. And
You're
eventually, if
ahead, but you're not gaining anything. You're spending your one on tap to basically undo theirs. But if it takes them another turn before they can play it again, and then you can
yep,
use your turn to attack, that's
right.
fine. So yeah, here we see Valdalian Merchant. This is a type of card I like a lot. Um,
Tell us what it does.
2 mana, one in a blue for a 1/2 Merfolk that when it comes into play you draw and discard a card. So
Excellent.
I think in conjunction with Gush and Daze, like you're gonna have a lot of dead islands in your hand, and so this is another way to mitigate the flood. You Gush, you pick up your lands, you play these, you draw, you discard those lands, and hopefully you find a lot of good spells going into the mid to late game. It's just a 1/2. Um, is that a Bloodstain Mire he's tapping, or is that Sulphurous Springs?
That is a Sulphurous Springs from the
Oh yeah, 7th edition art. Okay,
yep 7th edition art from the Pro Tour deck.
yeah.
So now we get to see what happens when Herb gets untapped with all of his mana and a Goblin War Chief in play.
Yeah,
Um,
and because the Voldalian Merchant is a 1/2, he couldn't really attack. He would have to just trade for either of those creatures that David has.
yep.
But also he probably wouldn't want to trade a 2-for-1 there anyway because War Chief is so strong. But Lord of Atlantis does mean David can start attacking here. He may decide to use Waterfront Bouncer on the War Chief instead, which looks like that's his plan. So he'll
I
attack for
like
two
that
first.
plan because we didn't attack with the War Chief.
Hmm.
And I think if we just get to, sort of for 1 blue mana and a card, time walk our opponent ish,
Yeah,
unless
yeah.
Herb's got another land and can play a 2-drop, then maybe, but
If we do this every turn from here on out, if he's just playing War Chief and we're bouncing and attacking for 4, we're gonna win
yep.
that game. So Herb really needs a way to get out of this. He really needs to find, Pyrokinesis is the ideal card here.
Yeah.
So
Now, David does pitch a looter, which isn't trivial. A looter is a real good card for David's deck.
it does mean that he probably has no land in his hand. So he probably has like a Force of Will or a Daze or maybe a
Days would be real
Gush.
solid. So we're going
Um,
to see Herb play a 4th land on the side here.
Oh, and there's the
And then there's
pyrokinesis,
the
and that's
pyrokinesis. Okay, so
so he's playing around days, so that's why he didn't do it on the other turn. But we do have counterspell plus force of will, so
all right,
actually, exactly what David needed. Herb had exactly what he needed, but David had what he needed to stop that.
sure. Well, we at least know the shields are down. If David wants to keep Waterfront bouncing, he's going to have to not draw a card for the rest of the game to do so. Herb's got 4 mana, so conceivably he's got the ability to play a War Chief and then maybe a Pile Driver, which would be a very strong turn. We're gonna leave up a mountain, so that is still on the table. Let's see what we do. We're gonna tap it, and survey says Pile
Yep,
Driver. Oh, here we
Oliver.
go.
So that kind of turns off the Waterfront bouncer shenanigans. Oh, but he's just attacking. So here's a 5-point
Sure.
attack.
I think this
Herb
races pretty well.
Herb should be at 16 here. I think. I don't know if they got that point from the Sulphurous Springs. Um, it looks like David's debating blocking. I don't think I would ever want to block with my Lord of Atlantis, but I
Not with
think
0 cards in hand.
yeah. Um, can we see if they get that life total updated though? I think he was supposed to be at 16. Yeah, they got it there. Okay.
Cool.
All right. So now it might just be a classic race situation. It's right now it's 5 versus 6. Um, if David draws a Lord of Atlantis, he could maybe win the race, but I think something like CG Commander or even just another pile driver,
Yeah,
really
Herb.
any goblin from Herb is probably going to win the game.
The problem
So,
is Herb's creatures have haste. David's
mhm.
don't.
So David
So
attacks for 4 here and leaves up the waterfront bouncer.
I think that's fine because what it means is we can before combat bounce the War Chief to make sure nothing else has haste, and then
That's
we're
true
not going to take any damage from
from whatever's played for
the
that
pile
turn.
driver this turn. Yeah.
The pile driver could probably still attack for one.
Well, sure, but then it depends on
Yeah,
what Herb plays to block with. But
yeah. I mean, Herb could play another war chief though, and that would be the worst.
Herb has
Where
so
you don't.
much more mana though. We've got 5 lands, and ooh,
There's a lackey. Okay.
are we gonna
Um.
be? This is a tight spot because we can't bounce. We'd have to bounce at the beginning of combat, and we're still
Mhm.
going to.
All right. So it looks like we're going to combat, and he's bouncing the
No,
war chief.
well,
Oh, he's bouncing the
no,
lackey.
we have to bounce the lackey because unless we just put Herb on not having any more goblins in hand,
Well,
which is
no,
potential.
no. I mean, because it doesn't have haste once you bounce the war chief.
Um,
So, like, if you
yeah,
do it in
that would have been
combat,
better.
yeah.
Yeah, no, that's what we said all
Ooh,
along.
there goes the other pyrokinesis and a pyroblast. But we did find a gym palm and a matron.
Gem Palm is not trivial. Now it still costs 2. War Chief does not
Hmm.
reduce that cost, so we're gonna have to wait. But the matron means we're gonna get another Gem Palm probably.
The matron's probably just gonna get a pile driver, which presents a lethal clock next turn.
Oh yeah,
Um,
that's better. Do that.
yeah, I mean that's gonna force him. That's gonna force him to actually have to bounce the war chief this time. Um, so I think it does not look good for David here. Um,
Yeah, I don't
it doesn't.
think.
I don't think he has any cards in his deck that really are gonna get him out of this. Like
Um,
Winter Orb could maybe slow it down, but then he's gonna get his Lord Gym palmed. Um, the chill isn't quite enough with the War Chief already in play, and
yeah, with one card in hand, David needs to cast multiple spells a turn, and if we're discarding
mhm,
to bouncer, we're never doing that.
yeah.
Um,
So like, maybe he can gush into something.
Gush is the card he needs to draw. Gush into Gush. I don't know. Make it 12-12, and then Herbs at 12. Ask that question. See what happens.
Yeah. Um, so Herb's playing the Lackey pre-combat. It looks like they're going to combat here. Or maybe he's going to play something else. Maybe he's going to play. I imagine he should play the Matron. Um,
I mean, maybe he's trying to see if he can win this turn.
I don't think he can win if the bouncer is active. So the bouncer is bouncing. Wait, he's paying 4 mana here. He's gonna cycle 2 gym palms. Okay.
All right, that presents lethal.
So there's
right.
5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I think it's only 9.
Yes.
But I don't think David can draw anything here.
No. No, he
Sabo's
cannot.
decree. Gush into swamp the Sabo's decree. Because you can float 2 blue.
Let's do it.
Does that
Find
work?
a way.
Yeah. I don't think that works.
Tividar's Crusade.
Oh, but he did find Gush.
did find Gush. We're going to gush into Lotus Petals, chat, and then play these spells that aren't in our deck. That's what we're going to do. All right, yeah. So we're going to game 3, everybody. Goblins versus.
That was the match.
That was the match.
Goblins won the first game.
I lied.
Yeah.
The game counter tells all.
Pile Driver was just too much. I said before the games it was going to be the key card. I don't think it's the most important card, but maybe it was. I think there's some other cards that it definitely was the key card, if not the most important. And Herb found enough Pile Drivers both games to shut down David's attack and then kill him very shortly after. It goes really quickly into from defensive mode to you're dead mode.
I mean, if we think about it, right, Pile Driver was printed right at the very end of the sets that this format consists of. And so prior to then, these red decks were always hurting for some threat against these blue decks that kind of just closed the game, had some sort of, resistance to blue. They gave us Pile Driver, and everyone rejoiced. And you can see why, because once it's in play, this deck has no way to answer it, and it closes the game.
It doesn't get bounced. There's no tricks where they bounce something. It gets around Psychotog, which I think was the main reason they printed it, was Psychotog had been so strong at the time.
Sure.
And Pile Driver did not get blocked by Psychotog, and that's the problem with that Psychotog in Standard was it. Not only was it a good way to kill, but it could block forever because no creatures were big enough to seriously threaten it. And so Pile Driver was the way to give red decks a way to go around Psychotog. Even though, the rest of your team can still get blocked, you're going to take a lot of damage from the Pile Driver that you can't block.
Yep. Well, that's going to do it for match 1. I probably went kind of the way, unless we see the blue deck get the 12-12. That the results kind of make sense, I think.
Yeah, I was expecting the Goblin deck to win, and barring some Winter Orb shenanigans, which we almost saw game 1.
We did.
Really close, and then or like a really fast Dreadnought that was unexpected. But I think once he knew what was going on, the Goblin deck had all the tools that he needed to basically never really be too threatened. He had the Pyrokinesis, which was Force of Will, but that took away all the resources that David had.
Oh yeah.
He spent everything on 3 Grizzly Bears, basically, and that's not going to be enough in school.
No, it is not. Well, stick around, everybody. We do have another match coming. We do have some really big heavy hitters here, playing some pretty cool decks. Stuff that we haven't seen on stream before. So definitely stick around. We'll bring you another match of middle school here shortly. And we'll be back in a moment. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the second match of tonight's Fall Semester Middle School League, Week 4. My name is Robert, and I'm joined in the booth by Ty. How's it going, Ty?
Good, good. The first match was great. This one might be even better.
I'm very excited for this match. Brian's playing a deck near and dear to my heart, a version of it anyway. And Jake's playing something so different than what we've ever seen on this stream. I'm excited to see it do its thing, just to see it
Yes.
happen.
I played against Jake round 1 of this league, and he, I played a spell, and he played Force of Will, pitching Time Stretch, and from that point on, I was like, I don't know what's going on.
Right. We have
So
we have a card with the CMC of 10 being cast in this deck. And we're going to see how it's done. Jake is going to play a Tron land. This is how we're going to get to that mana. We're going to play Chromatic Sphere. For all we know, we're playing Modern. This looks like Modern to me.
it's a modern start. Urza's Mine is Chromatic Sphere. His real, the real way he generates this mana is Urza's Lands, Frantic Search, and Time Spiral, and then from there he's gonna cast Time Stretch, and I don't even know how he's trying to win. Like maybe just these two Stroke of Genius and just try and keep going off.
I mean, we can Stroke a Genius ourselves to draw more cards so we can use up our mana, or we can Stroke a Genius our opponent to make them draw their deck potentially. One thing to note is that mana burn is in this format. So if you are generating lots of Tron mana and then taking extra turns, when you end your turn to go to the next one, you will take mana burn for all the mana you have not spent. So unlike other combos and other formats where you take all the turns, mana burn is something you have to worry about. So we'll see what Jake has planned to do that with here. If he has that, if that shows up in his deck. Hockey is his response to Chromatic Sphere is just Entomb. So he's going to Entomb what looks like to be another spirit. Taking care, of course, to put it in the right graveyard order. We're going to return another spirit. At the beginning of the upkeep, we have a response. We're going to sacrifice Chromatic Sphere, draw a card, and tap a swamp.
He's icing the swamp, which obviously you don't want to fire the Nether Spirit. It's just gonna come back next turn.
Yep.
And icing the swamp stops all of the sorcery speed discard that Hockey could have. Interesting this deck Hockey's playing. It's shown up in several leagues. I don't know if he was the innovator or if this was the Tweety deck at some point. Who played it first? You won that first league with Necro and Deed, but they kind of went full in on
Yep.
the Creatureless package. There's no creatures besides another spirit that you can entomb for, and the other entomb targets are Call of the Herd and Cabal Therapy, with like a Roar of the Worm, and I guess he's playing an Undead Gladiator as well. So
I believe this started as after winning the tournament with Necro Rock, Tweety took it and was like, these creatures are the worst part of the deck, which are true. It's really just a good deck with a ham sandwich or two. And so his next generation included the cards, all spells, playing Call of the Herds to make creatures, playing manlands to make attack with. And it looks like Brian has picked it up and made a change here or two for it. I know Tweety's playing a similar deck. It's a very powerful deck, full of very powerful cards, and I think the Creatureless package does provide a lot of kind of another angle that reduces, kind of your weakness to some of these removal spells potentially, because you could just play better spells in general, play maybe more of a controlling matchup. Closing games could be hard, but
closing games can be hard, but you have ways to destroy your own Necropotence, so you're never going to lock yourself out, which is some issues that some other Necro decks have. You have Four Pernicious Deed. He even has a Naturalize, which in a pinch you can use on yourself.
Absolutely.
But you also have ways to the Undead Gladiator in particular is very strong in this deck because when you draw a bunch of extra cards with Necro, you're going to draw cards that might not be good anymore. Like you may draw Entombs that no longer do anything, or Duresses when they have an empty hand, or lands that you don't need. And that Gladiator is going to help cycle you through that. As long as you don't have the Necro in play, because I believe if you do, it's just going to get exiled.
If you discard it to Necro?
I thought it was just any discard.
Let's see. I think, because you can get duressed, and I don't think it goes. Let's see. I'm going to pull it up. It's been a hot second. Whenever you discard a card, exile that card from your graveyard. Okay, yep, nope. Yeah, that you can't cycle cards with Necropotence, everybody.
I guess you can maybe do it during your upkeep, you can discard. You could cycle it in your upkeep and then immediately bring it back in response to the Necro trigger that's exiling it.
Yeah, you could do that.
Uh,
Sure.
so
Uh,
anyway, this game, Hockey has managed to completely strip Jake's hand, leaving him with just a force of will and no blue mana and no mana to cast it. So now he's free to resolve Necropotence, and looks like
and
he
this
just
is
now
kind of
has
how
to
I
find a way
saw
to
this
win.
going.
Well, it's one of those things, like you said, it's a slow clock. If there's something like, if Jake can find a time spiral, if he has, looks like he has Tron, so if he finds Island and time spiral, he could be back in this game, undo all the card advantage that Necro has done.
Yep.
Um, and Hockey doesn't really have a super fast clock. He has Treetop Village and Nether Spirit now, so that's 5 a turn if he can find a green source.
It looks like
Uh,
Jake's only card is this Force of Will, is what I am interpreting
yes,
this board state to be.
there's
Brian
an Entomb.
has
I
Entomb
imagine he's
after
gonna
drawing a
go
bunch of
get
cards of Necro.
Roar the Worm here. Okay, so make a 6/6, make the clock faster.
Um, Now, curious enough, if we discard this to hand size, we can cast it for its madness cost before it gets exiled, I
It's
believe.
not a madness card.
Oh
It's
no, this is flashback.
flashback. Yeah.
Oh no,
So
this isn't. This
and
isn't
it
the
went
worm.
straight to the graveyard. It never went to our hand either. So
See, and this is why we have commentators other than myself in the booth, because I'll just like make stuff up, and I need someone else to keep me in line.
so yeah, just shows the strength of the black discard spells, and because there's no creatures in this time spiral deck, uh, the Necro deck is free to Necro as much as he wants. He can go
There's
down
zero pressure
to
here, that's for
one,
sure.
and one means he can never Necro again, but he's never taking any damage, and that life was only going to be spent on Necro or maybe Llanowar Wastes. So that's something
Um,
that maybe.
so look at the sign of strength. We're removing discard and and discarding our pernicious deeds.
Hmm.
Um, and it's kind of interesting, right? We have both decks that are trying to draw a bunch of cards, and the deck that doesn't play blue is doing it infinitely better right now.
Yeah. So Jake did find Island, so he is set up here for Time Spiral next turn.
Yep.
He's only taking 8. Um,
And we do have forcible mana, so theoretically Brian's not
so whatever
casting.
Brian casts, he can get Force of Will, and then maybe he'll draw Time Spiral. But it looks like is that 2 Time Spirals in the graveyard?
There are 2 time spirals in the graveyard. Yeah. Maybe
Um,
we draw time stretch. We have time stretch mana. Take 2 extra turns. Maybe find something
two,
there.
2 extra turns is a lot, because you could go Time Stretch into Stroke of Genius, and then you're really in it. Or
Right.
even, there's other cards that, like, if he finds the time to play it. Looks like we've cycled the Undead Gladiator, but we're not exiling it. Is that
Um.
does hockey not know that's how that works? Does cycling not count as discard? I'm pretty sure cycling counts as discard.
It should count as discard. I wonder. So
Okay, so he's gonna force the will the Phyrexian Furnace. Take 8, go to 8.
I wonder if this is an errata sort of thing. If it's using the original language. I'm gonna look up Necropotent's original text. Let's see. No, it's just if you discard a card from your hand, remove that card from the game. So yeah, that should be gone. I don't think it's mattering. But if it comes up again, we will absolutely let our players know.
Okay, so it looks like Jake did not draw what he needed there, and
Um,
was dead on board. So
that's unfortunate. We saw Jake at least assemble the mana sources. I kind of want to see what happens afterwards. Brian's deck is really suited to really tear apart a deck like this because Jake needs some setup, and all these black discard spells are great against doing that. And Brian was able to find the win con to close the door a little bit better. We did find the worm. If we don't have that, then maybe Jake has some time to draw out. And one of the problems with these rock style decks is that sometimes you do have a lot of really good controlling and disruptive cards, but you can't close the game. That is the biggest
yeah.
problem.
So let's take a look at the sideboard here. So, cards that Brian might be looking to take out, like Pernicious Deed, doesn't really do a whole lot here, other than kill your own Necros. So maybe he cuts those in some number. He's got, he's got Sabo's Assassin, Chainer's Edict, Powder Keg, Naturalized Spinning Darkness. Those are Tormod's Crypt. That card might be useful if you can crypt something before the time spiral.
Yep.
Maybe that makes it less likely to keep going off. Haunting Echoes. That's going
I
to be
think
a big
Haunting
one.
Echoes is great.
So if he can get discard spells fired off and then Haunting Echoes before the time spiral happens, uh,
I'm I
Jake
think
just
I'm
might not be
actually
able to have a
inclined
playable deck.
I'm inclined to keep these deeds because you need them to blow up necros, but they also blow up the chromatic spheres
I
that
don't
we've
know about
seen.
that's important.
I mean, taking off a colored mana, maybe if he's not doing anything with them, just taking him away, taking away resources, maybe.
I mean, you're more likely to leave Indeed than say Smother and Diabolic Edict, and I guess Powder Keg. So
Yeah.
I guess there's cards that are coming out beforehand. Um, um,
But what is
you
Jake
know,
gonna bring in?
so Jake has, he's got 2 Cunning Wishes in main deck, so he's got a lot of wishes in the wish targets, but he does have uh 2 Annuls, which I think Annul is a very strong card against Necropotence.
Mm-hmm.
He's got a counter spell, 3 Teferi's Response. Brian only has 2 Wastelands, so I don't know, but Wasteland against Tron is so good. Maybe it's worth playing Teferi's Response there. And then he's got a Turnabout, a Stroke of Genius that probably has to stay there for killing Evacuation, 2
Sure.
Capsizes, 2 Disrupt. I imagine he's probably going to bring in Disrupt, maybe, especially on the play. You can disrupt a turn 1 Duress or Cabal Therapy counter.
Yeah, I
Let's say
think
game
that's
1
very
and draw a
powerful.
card. So maybe the Annuls and the Disrupts, and maybe the counter spell can come in, or the Teferi's Response, depending on. I don't think he saw Wasteland game 1, so maybe he doesn't bring in the response.
No, but I expect in these rock decks to at least have Dust Bowl.
Hmm. Hmm.
There's typically only one, maybe a wasteland or two. But I mean, I think
And if they do have like Living Wish, which usually the Necro versions don't have Living Wish, but you could expect to see it. So maybe you bring in a couple, maybe you just bring in the 2 response and leave one on the board to wish for. But
yeah,
you are so dependent on getting your Tron online that even just one Wasteland can set you back way too many turns. Um,
yeah, I think the versions of rock that leave the creatures out don't play wish
mhm.
as often. So I don't think Jake is going to be worried too much about wishing for something like that. But
Well, that's interesting because you don't actually need creatures in your deck to play Living Wish. So
you don't.
um,
No, you don't. This is true.
it's something to consider. It's not quite as good as the Entomb package, but you could play a version of this with Living Wish instead of Entomb, or in addition to Entomb if you wanted to.
Sure.
Maybe in some small numbers, and that way you could have. The other thing is this deck only has like 12 green sources, so there's not a lot of green
Right.
mana in the deck, and 4 of those are treetop villages that. A lot of times you're tapping a treetop to activate the other treetop.
Yeah, that's something I've
It,
seen happen to Tweety a lot.
yeah, yeah,
He says far suck as he's saying right now in chat.
yeah.
Um, and while that may be true for this deck, like I've seen a lot of trouble where we get a green source, but the green source is the treetop, so like we have trouble attacking sometimes.
Hmm.
Um,
So he says disrupt versus discard is the reason to play it. I wonder if they've considered what's the other card? Um, Divert, right? The
divert. Oh, I
I
love
guess I
divert.
guess the duress only targets opponents, so you
Yes, you
cannot
can't divert
divert,
that.
but you can divert Hinda Turok,
Yes, you
which
can.
is fairly common in these leagues. Maybe less so now. These rock decks have evolved where they said they don't need it. We're only on duress and therapy. Obviously, therapy is the best one of these 3 cards. I think even when you have only 7-ish creatures in your deck, it's still the best card to play. The ability to hit 2 cards, and not just any 2 cards like him, but the exact 2 cards you want to hit makes it the best version.
Sure, absolutely believe that. Well, it's gonna be interesting to see what happens in game 2 here. Jake's gonna be on the play. We'll see if he's got the natural Tron again. Um,
Yeah, he did have Natural Tron last game, but he does have a fairly reasonable way to get it. He's got 4 Sleight of Hand, 4 Impulse, plus the Frantic Searches that help him dig for Tron. And
yep.
Tron's a lot easier to assemble than you think. You look at the modern Tron decks that are designed on getting turn 3 Tron as fast as possible. And yeah, it's really hard to get turn 3 Tron unless you play all of those cards like Expedition Map, Sylvan Scrying, and those cards. But to have Tron on like turn 4 or 5 or 6, you really just need to see cards. So Impulse is the best card here for that.
Mm-hmm.
Just if you don't see it, you're 4 cards closer to the piece you need.
What's also interesting here is that we want to disrupt Jake's Tron mana, but we can't Thoughtseize it, or well, we can't Cabal Therapy. Sorry, not Thoughtseize. We can't Cabal Therapy it. We can't Duress it, and we're not running Hypnotorox for it. So we can only take the payoff cards, which is probably good enough. We saw Jake had Tron, nothing to do with it, but
it does mean that if he gets Tron in play and top decks one of those, like we said, Time Spiral or Time Stretch or Stroke of Genius,
exactly.
you're gonna be you're not gonna be behind, but you might undo all the work that you've done up to that point. So Hockey hasn't really played anything here. He's on a slower play. Looks like we have a mine and a power plant and an island for Jake. So he's threatening possibly having Tron next turn, which 8 mana he could possibly Time Spiral with the Chromatic Sphere. He's gonna ice a land here.
Ice the green source. All right, sure, I'm on board.
So that's gonna stop Call of the Herd from coming out this turn, which is probably has to be one of the most likely things that Hockey was going to be doing. But is he discarding? Oh, he's wastelanding. Okay.
Yeah, we drew a wasteland. Okay, so Jake didn't see that first game. Now he sees it now. I think Jake is indicating he didn't have like Mana Leak or any Visital like 2 mana counter spells.
Yeah,
which makes it a really good play for Brian to draw that wasteland that turn.
Yeah. Here's another sleight of hand. So imagine Hockey might have kept this slower hand with less disruption with maybe he has Haunting Echoes in his hand. So he's thinking, by the time I get to Haunting Echoes, I'll have drawn some of the disruption I need to make it good. But he only has the 2 Haunting Echoes and no real way to find it. So keeping a hand with that and the mana to cast it would be a reasonable range of keeping. So
look at that. Jake did have the Tron. He's found it. Had there not been a wasteland.
Okay, there's a turn 3 Necro. So the other option is he just has turn 3 Necro. But do we have the Annul? So
Survey
Jake,
says we do.
There it
All
is.
right.
Okay, this is gonna be a real game.
We can see without Brian really interacting with Jake's hand, Jake has cards. He's brought that do interact with Brian. So we're just gonna pass. So Jake does not have a land drop.
I have a 4th land, so another wasteland here. It's very good if Brian has it. He only has the 2 in the deck. Oh, but he doesn't have the follow-up Necros. Let's see what Jake has. Jake has
we have a force. We have Mana Leak. Yeah. Okay, so we got a handful of spells. So
but there's a Treetop Village, so that does going to start attacking Jake here. And there's really nothing he can do about it. Hopefully he can start finding ways to dig deeper into his deck to find the cards he needs to win. But if you were Hockey here and you had the 5th mana, would you play Haunting Echoes?
Oh my gosh!
You're only really getting Sleight of Hand, Fire Ice, Chromatic Sphere. You're kind of almost helping him. You're thinning the deck. You do get the Urza's land though, right? Does Haunting Echoes hit lands, or does it just not hit basic lands? Because hitting that Urza's land probably wins you the game on the spot. What does Haunting Echoes say? Haunting Echoes, other than basic lands. So yes, if he hits that Urza's land with Haunting Echoes, that's game over. So here's 3 time stretches in Jake's hand. And I believe that's the Disrupt and the Fire Ice. So Therapy named Time Spiral. Oh. And I think...
Wow. Look at that hand.
Yeah. And here's an Undead Gladiator, and is he gonna flash back right away? I don't really see the need to, but there is the Fire Ice in the hand. So if Jake were to draw a Chromatic Sphere,
I mean, we could just take 3 time stretches.
Yeah, but when's he gonna cast Time Stretch? No time soon.
He's 2 land drops away.
Okay, so in the turn he cycles the ice, and
all he needs to do is draw an island and the 3rd Tron piece.
No, that's only 9 mana. He sees 3 land drops in there.
That's true. All right.
So
So yeah,
maybe
no,
maybe
there's
with a
no Tron.
frantic search or something, he could do it. So
Yeah.
hockey's gonna leave him with that for now. The other thing is, if you don't do it now, he might draw a counter spell for the flashback. Oh, but we just have another Cabal Therapy. Okay.
Oh, well, that's fine. I still think if we take this mana leak, I'm almost positive.
It's not a mana leak. It's disrupt. So.
Is that disrupt?
Oh,
Oh,
I
my
guess he
bad.
can't flashback because he could just disrupt the flashback. So that's why
Sure.
he didn't flashback that turn. So he's gonna disrupt this one, and hockey's gonna pay. So that lets Jake turn that into another card. I imagine he just names Time Stretch here.
So what Jake needs to just summon to the battlefield right now is Pyromancy, which would allow him to throw these time
Okay,
stretches at his
so
opponent's face.
there's a Syncopate, a Cunning Wish, and an Impulse. So um, Jake's not completely out of it yet. You know, he has
No,
no
he's not.
time stretches, but he needs to find like Time Spiral is still his best bet. Uh, and he can. He's still 2 land away from casting Time Spiral though. There's attack for 3. First blood of the game. Yeah, it's interesting to see this Necro deck operate without Necro in play. I do wonder, maybe Hockey's supposed to flashback therapy at some point to get the Gladiator engine online as a way to dig for the cards he wants. Um, okay, another island. So now we're just 1 land away from Time Spiral.
All right, let's do
We
it.
have Cunning Wish, and oh, there's 5 mana. Is this, well, Syncopates? He still has to beat the Syncopate. So maybe counter spells might keep Jake in this game long enough to win.
Counterspells are historically good against the Rock in the short term. Rock can draw these discard spells to find their way out of it. So it's not a very good long-term plan.
Therapy. So he's going to flashback therapy here, probably named Syncopate or Impulse. So
No, I think you name the Impulse, because naming Syncopate just, he's either going to cast a Syncopate, or which he doesn't have the mana to really do because we have the Syncopate mana. So I think we cast Impulse, put a mystery card in our hand, and then our opponent's probably going to take the Syncopate, maybe the Wish. Chat, this is the second match.
Yeah. All right, so is he still resolving the Impulse? Is that what we're waiting on here? So there's no mystery card up, and I haven't seen therapy resolve. So yeah, Jake's finally picking a card from the Impulse. Must have been a tough one. Probably like, really what you want to find there is that Tron land, because that can't get therapied. So if you had
Right.
found the mine, that's what you wanted to get. So he's gonna name. Looks like he names the Syncopate, and we reveal. Oh, Time Spiral.
All right, one land away.
Okay, so mine off the top would be
One-time dealer. I want to see this deck go off. I'm a sucker for what I consider a meme deck, and I think Tron Time Spiral is a meme.
Oh, we're flashing back the other therapy with our Treetop Village. So hate to disappoint you. Oh, and we have the third Necro.
Oh, come on, Brian. Don't you want to have
You see
fun?
Jake throw up his hands like, of course.
I feel for you, Jake. We all feel for you.
He's not even messing around. He's paying 10 life, and we're going to see 10 cards.
I mean, at the end of the league, I want to see the Rock deck in the finals for sure. But right now, I want to see Jake, complete Tron and just go ham. That's what I want to see. I want a highlight video for our stream. Let's go.
Yeah. It would be interesting. There may be, a different way to build this where you have some other like middle of the road Tron things you can do when you have Tron, but not like actual 10 mana. I guess Time Spiral is one, but I guess Stroke of Genius is the other.
Stroke of Genius, I think, is fine, right? I mean, what other options are there, right? There's not a lot of good artifacts to play. A lot of good colorless things. You could play, I don't know, because all the best artifacts I can think don't need Tron.
It's just Jake's in such a rough spot here. He was like kind of set up. He could beat all of that, even that last therapy. He was still kind of okay against, and then the Necro really just makes it, he still needs two cards to get back in the game, and Necro certainly has found Hockey at least another discard spell, if not Haunting Echoes for the knockout.
Yeah, that would be the wombo combo there.
Yeah, because like I said, the mine is still in the yard. So if you have the mine in play, it won't get hit. So maybe he's got the mine here. Nope, just another island.
Nope. All right, but we do have wish mana, so we can't wish a way to stop a Cabal therapy, but what do we kind of want to wish for in this position? We can wish for a ton.
Okay, so we got back the Undead Gladiator in the upkeep, play Treetop Village, and Duress. So the wish target here,
There's
it's just gonna
evacuation,
get Duressed.
maybe.
So
Well, it's not gonna matter.
yeah, I was gonna say if
Yeah.
there's something that could counter the Duress, you could get Disrupt. Maybe he's supposed to wish for Disrupt and hope to draw a land off of that instead of something that can be Duressed.
Sure. It does draw a card. I think that would have been fine. I would have if. Well, we're assuming that
But
both
the Disrupts are probably in the main deck.
Yeah, that's the problem. I think the Disrupts are in the main deck.
Oh, something that could come up. I don't know if this will ever happen, but maybe if Jake draws like, if he has a few more turns, he could end up. Well, the Necro's in play. As I say, he could try and Brain Freeze Hockey, but Hockey doesn't have a draw step, so you can't even deck him out. If you were to like chain some type of storm, just enough to do it, but
there is a Brain Freeze in the so you have to have Stroke of Genius to win. I mean, if we have the loop, then maybe we can get the Brain Freeze and then force the draw.
Yeah, you could capsize the Necro at that point, but you only have the one wish left. I guess you'd have to time spiral. So we have to go full combo to win.
And we have another spirit, so yeah, we do have to go full combo. There's no way to deal damage in here, but we do have. We can get a capsize, so we can Brain Freeze and then capsize this Necro. Yeah.
So there's Tormod's Crypt, which I imagine Hockey won't use it unless Jake draws a time spiral, because he wants to keep the graveyard there in case he draws Hiding Echoes. But he's going to cast the Gladiator, put it on a Mana Leak. Okay, that buys some time. What's going on? Oh, there we go. So
sorry, that got weird for a second.
Hockey's gone down to 1. No way for ooh Chromatic Sphere into Fire. That's Jake's win now. If he finds Chromatic Sphere for the red, and then finds Fire,
we do have direct damage. I lied. Yeah,
we have
so funny.
One Fire, because I think he used the Fire Ice earlier. Hockey's attacking for 6 or for 8 here, so he's gonna go down 6 on 1 turn clock.
Let's go. Let's do it. I mean, Time Spiral might. Well, Time Spiral
Sphere
won't
into Fire. Sphere into Fire.
Both of his Fire and Ices are in the graveyard.
Oh, they're both there?
Yeah, you can see Ice.
I see the Ice on the one. I don't see the other one.
There's an Ice right below.
Oh, yep, you're right. Oh, he did draw the Sphere.
Oh, we're not going to tap the Sphere, draw a card, and see what we get?
Looks like that top card is some type of gold border card.
Probably. I'm so sad.
Yep.
We didn't get to see it. Jake, Jake's going to lose this game, and Brian's going to win this game 2-0, but we're all sad we didn't get to see. We were so close to seeing Tron do Tron things.
I think that last game was close. It was good back and forth. It's just that third Necropotence that Brian found before Jake ever got anything that he I don't know how many spells he actually cast, besides counter spells in that game. So
well,
yeah, that's a little bit of a disappointment, but it was still a great match. It's a lot of fun to see that Necro deck go. It's very solid. I think it's one of the big contenders. It keeps putting up results, and it seems like all of the bases are covered. If you're going to play Necro, if you like playing Necro, this is the one to look at. I've seen people play Necro and other stuff.
Yeah.
It's never done as well as it does in this black-green deck.
I agree. I think the backup of this Disruption plus the green spells and some of these other things to actually just close out the game kind of gives you this fair plan, right? You're not trying to do degenerate things in Necro. You're just trying to have better card advantage. And the thing that I learned from my league when I was playing it was if you just throw all your hand disruption spells and just disrupt your opponent and get down to parity, you can just drop the Necro, and then suddenly you've got infinitely more resources than your opponent, and that's enough to win.
It's enough to win if those resources are good. Because I went 1-5 in a league with Necro where I played Necro where my opponents were basically empty-handed and I was on 20 life and lost like 3 of those games because all I
Ooh,
was doing was drawing bad zombies, like Carnophage and Sarcomancy and Lord of the Undead, which my opponents found ways to deal with it, and I had no life gain, I had no way to kill my Necro, and I would just get locked out of the game. So you have to have
sure.
good cards to draw. You can't just draw bad cards. But Necro is that strong that it makes those discard spells. You don't even have to question like, do I really want to play all 8? You're like, yes, I'm going to play all 8. I
Yep,
want to play as many as I can and set up my Necro.
absolutely. Well, that's going to do it for our matches tonight. We will have tentative streams in the future. So if you were tuning into the end of last stream, I let you guys know that we may or may not have streams on next Thursday and the following after. I'm out of town. We'll see what happens. We may have streams on an off day. TBD. So stay tuned. Get all the latest info in our Discord. That's where we're going to let you know what's happening and when. At the very least, what we'll do is we'll just encourage everyone to show up and play in Discord, so that way you can all watch games as they happen. Maybe you'll have an
Is there streaming
unofficial.
plans on Thanksgiving? Because that would be the top 8 week, correct?
So that is something that I don't think we've decided. I believe the answer is going to be no, because I don't think anybody is going to be around
Right.
to do that sort of thing. So definitely no stream on Thanksgiving. We'll see how we play the top 8 and the top 4. So top 8, the quarterfinals usually plays off camera, and then the semis and finals usually play on stream. So if we do not have streams regularly scheduled for the next 2 weeks, then we will definitely come back with the semis and the finals after Thanksgiving, I believe. So stay tuned. We're gonna play it by ear and see what happens as we get into the holiday season. But I hope that regardless, I see you guys around in chat or wherever, or next week, or when the next stream happens.
All right. I'll see you in Atlanta.
Yes. So that's one of the reasons why we won't be around 2 weeks from now. We'll be Atlanta playing the wonderful format of Pioneer. If you like Pioneer and have strong opinions about it like I do, hit me up in our Discord and we can talk about how much we love Pioneer.
It's great.
Anyway, that's going to do it for tonight. Again, my name is Robert. I'm joined by Ty. A pleasure as always.
Yeah. Have a good night, everybody.
All right. Adios.